What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Kangaroo Black coming back once again, talking my Alabama Crimson Tide and the fact that in the coach Kalen DeBoer era, Alabama is still held to a higher standard than anybody else in college football. Now, we know the standard that Nick Saban brought to Alabama, and Alabama adopted that standard as the Alabama standard. But in the last 2 to 3 years Nick Saban was coaching Alabama, a lot of media, talking heads and fans was saying Nick Saban was getting too old and he don't have it no more. But yet, y'all still held Alabama to the highest of standards, higher than anybody else in college football. Now that Nick Saban is retired and Coach Kalen DeBoer has taken over, fans, the media says Alabama fans is crazy if they don't expect the drop off. But yet, y'all still hold Alabama to the highest of standards, higher than anybody else in college football. Am I lying? No, I'm not. We didn't have, since Alabama done won a national championship back in 2020, we didn't have 2 national championship teams. One of them to go back to back, and then we got a new champion last season. All right, but y'all still hold Alabama to a standard higher than the previous national champions, previous and current national champions. Say it ain't so. And you're still doing it today, even though we got a first-year head coach at Alabama. Well, not a first-year head coach, but the first year as a head coach at Alabama. And you know, being the head coach at Alabama is probably the biggest head coaching job that you can get. The most criticized head coaching job that you can get. After Nick Saban, of course. But anyway, I've been saying this, that Alabama is held to a higher standard than anybody else. I've been saying that. Everybody knows this. But I got an article saying the same damn thing that I've been saying. And it's on Bama Hammer. Standards still different for Alabama football post Nick Saban. And who is Zach Breathwaite? I guess that's his name. Zach. He wrote this article. And he ain't lying. He see things just the way I do. This article says, coming off a highly basically mediocre performance against South Florida, Alabama football was among the most popular media talking points. It's Alabama. We always among the most popular media talking points. But anyway, the Crimson Tide was very underwhelming for the majority of the game before visiting South Florida Bulls straight out of Bryant-Denny Stadium. And that's what they did. No matter how you look at it. But anyway, the offense in particular played poorly through the first 3 quarters, mustering just 14 points. However, it took just 10 minutes of game time for the Bama offense to reel off 4 straight touchdowns, outscoring USF 28-3 in the 4th quarter. They did that. The national reaction to this game showed that Alabama football still operates on a different standard from the rest of the sport. And that is true. Sure, Bama didn't look as good as most of us expected against USF, but the game is 60 minutes. The Tide played to the final whistle and ultimately won by 26 points. You damn right. The game is 60 minutes. Not 50 minutes, not 55 minutes. 4 quarters. Not 1, not 2, not 3. You play to the final whistle. And that's what my Alabama Crimson Tide did. And he is right. Wind up blowing USF straight out of Bryant-Denny Stadium. No matter how you look at it. You got these fans and got these talking heads. Oh, y'all struggle for 3 quarters, 3.5 quarters. Well, the game is 4 quarters. Y'all struggle for 50 minutes. Well, the game is 60 minutes. You ain't holding nobody else to the standard that you holding my Alabama Crimson Tide. You just look at the fact that anybody else won their game. No matter what's they ranking or if they played an unranked team, you just looking at the fact, hey, that team won. They were supposed to win. Well, my Alabama Crimson Tide won too, but y'all looking at the fact of how they won. Game is 60 damn minutes. Anyway, still Alabama was lumped in with other disappointing teams by popular national media pundits. These includes Notre Dame, who lost at home to Northern Illinois as a top 5 team, as well as Oklahoma, Oregon, Penn State, who quite literally survived against Houston, Boise State, Bowling Green. And here are the scores. All right, you had Oregon, number 9 Oregon, who beat Boise State 34-27, 1 touchdown. Number 15 Oklahoma, who beat Houston 16-12. Number 15 Oklahoma against unranked Houston scored 2 points in the second half off our safety. That's it. Then, like you said, number Notre Dame against Northern Illinois. Notre Dame lost the game 16-14 against unranked Northern Illinois. Then you got Penn State, number 8 Penn State, 34-27 win over unranked Bowling Green. And you got number 14 Kansas, 34-27, 1-score win over unranked Tulane. But nobody mentioned none of those programs. Not the talking heads, not the fans. They only focused on Alabama when Alabama won by 26. You see what I'm saying? Alabama can win a game by 14, 21, 26 points, just like this past weekend. And fans will say, well, y'all barely won. Y'all almost lost. When did you almost lose by 14 points? When did you almost lose by 26 points? In whose book is that almost losing, unless you talking about Alabama and holding them to a higher standard than anybody else? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, it says if you missed those other games, Oregon won. I went through all that. Oregon won 37-34 on a field goal as time expired. Oklahoma was outscored 62 in the second half by Houston and used a safety to help hold on for a 16-12 win. Penn State did not take its first lead over Bowling Green until midway through the third quarter and ultimately won 34-27. All these escapees were outgained in total yardage by their opponents. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? It is what it is, man. My Alabama Crimson Tide, we outgained our opponent in total yardage. We beat them by 26 points. It wasn't a 1-score game. But yet, we are the ones getting talked about and criticized. Higher standard, baby. Higher standard. The highest of standards. That's all I'm saying. The highest of standards, man. Anyway, CBS Sports analyst or writer, I can't pronounce their damn name, so I ain't going to even try. He wrote, Alabama and Penn State were shockingly pushed to the wire. ESPN dropped the Tide from number 4 to number 7 in its weekly power rankings. Several other talking heads and YouTubers also grouped Alabama in with the most disappointing performance of week 2. Need I say again, the Tide won by 26 points. If nothing else, this is evident that the college football world continues to hold Alabama to a different standard, even in the post-Nick Saban era. When you say it, the media, the fans, anybody who is not a fan of Alabama football, and some who are said that Alabama is going to have a drop-off with the coaching change. They said that Coach Kalen DeBoer couldn't come from the Pac-12 to the SEC and do what he did in the Pac-12, meaning drop-off. They even said that Coach Kalen DeBoer couldn't come to the SEC, the South, and recruit. Proved them wrong in that. by a long margin. All right. But anyway, they saying he can't do this and he can't do that. Alabama is done since Nick Saban is gone. But y'all still holding them to the highest of standards. A different standard than you hold everybody else in college football up to. The highest of standards, I might add. Oh my goodness, man. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Y'all talk all this trash about my Alabama Crimson Tide. You talked all this trash about Coach Kalen DeBoer. All right. You doubting my Alabama Crimson Tide after the performance that they had against South Florida. You doubting my Alabama Crimson Tide. Well, for all you haters, non-believers, naysayers, doubters, just think back to a few short months ago. You know, my Alabama Crimson Tide became the SEC champions after a mediocre performance against South Florida last season, after a loss against Texas last season. The same things was being said about my Alabama Crimson Tide, even with Nick Saban at the helm. And even when you were saying Nick Saban was too old, we became the 2023 SEC champions and rolled into the playoff, even though we lost to eventual national champions, Michigan. So don't y'all continue. Well, I know you won't bet against my Alabama Crimson Tide. That's been proven time and time again on my little live podcast. That you haters talk all this trash, but you won't bet against my Alabama Crimson Tide, even when we play your team, no matter who you are. And right now, those Michigan Wolverines is the national champions. And my Alabama Crimson Tide is held to a higher standard than those Michigan Wolverines, even though Michigan beat my Alabama Crimson Tide last season. Michigan, granted, they got a first-year head coach also at their program, but Sharon Moore, their head coach, been in that program for quite some time, so he ain't new to it. As a matter of fact, I believe he coached about 6 games last year as an interim head coach, replacing Jim Harbaugh when he was suspended at the beginning of the season and toward the end of the season. So he got this at Michigan. And he's a national champion. 2023 national champion, I might add. But here in 2024, my Alabama Crimson Tide is held to a higher standard than the current national champions. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? And even in victory, even in a blowout win, somehow fans are saying you almost lost to USF in a blowout win. I don't give a damn how the blowout came about. It happened. And just like the article says, the game is 60 minutes. You play until the last whistle, until the clock hits 0. Now, yes, I would have liked for Alabama to come out and dominate South Florida from start to finish, but that didn't happen. But what did happen, when the chips was on the line, Alabama came through. Alabama came through it. And, you know, I say chips when the chips was on the line, Alabama came through. But I can also say Alabama, they led from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. I know in the third and most of the fourth, it was a 1-point lead. But was they in the lead? I think so. I think so. But anyway, this is the last time you're going to hear me talk about that game because we got Wisconsin coming up. We got to take care of business against Wisconsin. We done took care of business against USF, even though it wasn't to our liking. Our Alabama Crimson Tide took care of business. And in the fourth quarter, they took care of business in dominant fashion. Dominant. Just so you know. So y'all can continue to hold my Alabama Crimson Tide to the highest of standards. And we'll keep on proving that that standard is not too high for us to meet. I'll tell you that right now. You can even raise the bar, and my Alabama Crimson Tide will meet it. We'll meet it. What you need to ask yourself, no matter who you're a fan of, can your team meet the same standard that you want Alabama to meet? Instead of putting these high standards on Alabama, you should put these same high standards on your team. But my Alabama Crimson Tide, we done set the bar, and we done proved that we are the greatest team in college football history. And as of right now, we are proving that we are the best college football team in all the land under coach Kalen DeBoer. Now roll, damn Tide.